शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्. Namaste all and welcome to the day 2 of our Purana Katha series. We are very fortunate to have Srinivas Acharya, so who is one of the key figure in shaping our organization and guiding us through all the activities which we are doing in online and even in offline mode. So with the blessings of Bhagavati and all our acharyas, we have started a new Pathshala in Madhya Pradesh, Center for Puranic and Shastric Studies. And for this center also, both Surya Narayana Acharya and Srinivas Acharya are the guides who are guiding us. And with the guidance of both the Acharyas, we are able to run this Pathshala. So to make everyone aware about what is Purana, Puranas not being only Kathas, how they are important, how they are significant in our daily life, we have started this small series of 5 days, and we'll be having such more online sessions again. So with us today, we have Dr. Jammalamadaka Srinivas Acharya. He's a senior scholar in Siddhanta Knowledge Foundation and a renowned Vedanta and Shastra scholar, and also founder of Kameshwari Foundation. And today, Acharya is going to tell us how Puranas can contribute to our culture and ethics in this wonderful session of role of Puranas in shaping cultural and ethical values. Now, over to you, Acharya.
Thank you. So it is Kameshwari Devi who is guiding us all. So we are just being the means in between. शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. So the title is given to me to explore on the role of Puranas in shaping cultural and ethical values. So the word Purana itself has many meanings, but normally it is called as Purapi Navam, Puranam. So even though the content of Puranas or at times the stories that they belong may be older, but they are very much contemporary. Pura api navam. Pura means older. Navam means which is contemporary. So how they happen to be contemporary is because most of us unknowingly do follow the path set by Puranas in many ways. So that will be the main focus on today's topic. And what is Purana? So the definition of Purana is Sargascha Pratisargascha Vamsho Manvantaranicha Vamshanu Charitancheti Puranam Panchalakshanam. So there are 5 elements that happen that help us determine that it is Purana. So Sargaha is creation, Pratisargaha is recreation, Vamshaha, that we have the kings who rule. Normally they belong to 2 Vamshas, Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. So they are lineages. Sargascha Pratisargascha Vamshaha Manvantaranicha. So each and every kalpa is governed by one of the Manus, their stories and their legacy, and Vamshan Charitam. And apart from the Surya Vamshas and Chandra Vamsha kings, the other kings who ruled or governed or who will govern or who will rule, their stories, it's not story, but their accounts will be explored in Puranas. So what is a Purana? Purana that is having these 5 elements. That is a Purana. And apart from this, there will be many things that will be dealt in Puranas. The beauty of Puranas is it is the whole foundational ethics or foundational whatever the concept is, it is explained in storytelling narrative. So the main path of Puranas in imbibing the knowledge to us is through very engaging storytelling. And unfortunately, due to this the technique of knowledge dispensation, that Puranas have been stamped to be called as mythology. So it is very unfortunate that the word myth itself originated from the Sanskrit word mithya, and again they are being imposed on Puranas, which actually will be the source of that word itself. So that is the unfortunate this thing, and not much of what you call prominent rebuttals were done on in this narration, that calling Puranas to be mythology. But now again, due to the Ishvara Sankalpa, that people have come out and started actually setting narrations right. So there are many historians who have come forward and again started rewriting or decolonizing our minds by coming up with fact-based research and all that stuff. So coming to today's topic, that is cultural and ethical values. So what are cultural values, or what are the elements that are part of our culture? So they start with day-to-day what you call elements, to very much prominent like festivals and all that also. So coming to cultural values, we can take any festival that we are celebrating today. So as part of our initiatives from Kameshwari Foundation, we started doing a video series called Utsava series in association with another foundation called Brihat. So there, we started doing what is the origin and significance of each and every festival, or mostly popular festivals. So my journey towards this started with discovering something related to Raksha Bandhan. So normally Raksha Bandhan is said to be a very recent phenomena. Maybe from there are different stories that right, Rani Karnavati and Hyder Ali Shah or someone. So it's all very much related to the Hindu-Muslim this thing, and it is very much oriented towards the brother-sister relationship and all that stuff. So normally we also don't actually even try to explore what actually, where do we actually find on manuals of how to actually celebrate our festivals. So normally, because festivals are a living tradition for us, so we inherit these festivals and the anything rituals or any stuff related to festivals from our elders in the house. So that is why certain festivals are very much famous in the south, and certain festivals are very famous in the northern part of India. So why? Because we inherit these from our ancestors. So this is called a Shishtachara. So in the Shastras, Shishtachara is one of the important proofs or pramanas to follow anything. So we follow festivals based on our ancestors, whatever they have given us. So even now that is so dwindling, that as younger generation started asking questions that why should actually we celebrate these festivals, even elders are finding it very hard to know, or at least convey the message, or convey that this is why we are performing or conducting all these rituals as part of festivals. And the other thing is, nowadays we are all very much unknowingly or knowingly have opted this trend of trying to fit in everything to be scientifically proven. So even though if you put haldi to in the down south, we have this tradition of putting haldi paste, applying haldi paste to the feet. Even there we have to, unless you are said that turmeric has some scientific value, and hence we are putting it, it is antiseptic and etc. We are not able to find any cultural value to it. And in the same way, while we even put the rangoli, why should we put rangoli? We don't have any scientifically proven fact. So that is why even the younger generation is also like, even if it is not scientifically proven, then what is the point in actually opting, or why should we actually perform this particular ritual or particular any practice? So this is some kind of a brainwash, or I would say this is a narrative that has been set by the Westerners, that if it is not scientifically proven, then the practice is dogmatic. It is not so, because life and civilizations are not only driven by scientific validation. So if we see even today, many economies which are very much developing, their roots are not scientifically proven, or whatever their practices, it's need not to be scientifically proven. If you have a scientifically proven fact, then it is very much good. It adds value to the practice that you are doing. But to actually perform any practice, or to actually opt any practice, scientifically proven, the stamp of being scientifically proven is not necessary, and we are not able to convey this message to our to the contemporary generation, because many things like why in India, at least until now, we do have this value of taking care of our parents when they are older, in their old when they're in their 60s 70s. So it is not needed for a Indian kid to actually say that you have to take care of your parents, because taking care of parents is not to be scientifically proven. But why do you actually give value to your parents is because you inherit such a culture where your relationship with your parents does not end at the age of 15, that as it happens in the Western countries. In that also, that actually is a bit uh, based on dogmatic approach. So thinking of logic being prevailing everything. So there is no logic in actually taking care of parents. It is more, if you statistically see, if you see the numbers, it is more burden. And nowadays, that is why even the younger generation is very frightened to take the decision to get married, because they think unless and until I am financially independent, I should not get married. Or if I don't have certain amount of money to raise children, I should not have kids. So these are all ideas that come from a very dogmatic perspective. Because we also don't know, because there is no, if you actually see even through logic, there is no logic behind actually getting married when you have a job or not. There will be many examples where without having money, the couple would be very happy, and even they will have children. And there will be many instances where even though the couple are earning very good salaries, but they are not happy in their lives. So even if you apply logic that comes from science, right? There is no logical base for the argument that you have to get married unless until you are having some financial stability or something. So these are all something that we are inheriting unknowingly, because we do not validate these notions. We just take it from peer pressure. Because why are you thinking that you have to get married at particular stage in your life? Is because your peers are also in such a in thinking the same way. But if you again go to science, the same science says that the perfect age for a female to have children would be the early 20s. But until 30s, arriving 30s, we are not having youngsters who are actually even thinking of marriage. So this is a very complicated situation that we are in, where we are not able to actually understand why we are taking certain important decisions in our lives which have no basis. Essentially, the most important decisions are taken out of just peer pressure, or peer some some thought process that is happening among the same age group, where we are not even trying to question the fundamentals of why we are actually taking such kind of decisions. So in this scenario, the role of Puranas will help us a lot. As I said, in cultural, if I have to say, if it is a cultural phenomena, coming to the cultural values that we inherit, many of as I've taken Raksha Bandhan. So the festival of Raksha Bandhan, or the instance of why should we actually perform Raksha Bandhan and how should we perform, when should we perform, we find it in the Bhavishya Purana. So in Bhavishya Purana, in Bhavishottara Purana, there are many vratas that across India we happen to celebrate many vratas. So some are very much prevalent in the south and some are in the north. As I said, Raksha Bandhan is more popular in the northern part of India. But in the southern part of India, we do perform Raksha Bandhan, but not knowingly that this is Raksha Bandhan. But we do perform. But the instances are different. So the story of Raksha Bandhan has the rootings in Bhavishya Purana, where Shri Krishna actually he gives many upadeshas to Dharmaraja in different instances. At times after Kurukshetra war, at times while they are in the Vanavasa, doing the Vanavasa. So Shri Krishna or Vyasa Maharshi, they actually come up instructing, giving upadesha of many vratas, which actually are become the foundations of many of our festivals. So coming to Raksha Bandhan, it has its there is a legend where it is said that the king Bali is a very important Asura king who happens to wage war against Indra, and he will not be successful in that war. So he goes to his guru and asks why I was not able to win the war against Bali. So then the Shukracharya says that Indra was fastened a Raksha by Shachi Devi, who happens to be Indra's wife. And because of that Raksha, you were not able to defeat Indra. So the power or Shakti of that Raksha will be for a year. So you stay put for a year, and afterwards you again wage war against Indra. So this is the basis for Raksha Bandhan. So what is the main concept of Raksha Bandhan is that one who is fastening the Raksha is actually wishing or investing his some prana shakti to the others who is fastening his or her welfare, and saying that you should may this Raksha help protect you in all whatever ways that you are facing any problems. May this Raksha protect you. So the main story of legend of Raksha Bandhan is a wife actually fastening Raksha to her husband, and we find that Raksha can be fastened to anyone by anyone to anyone. But over a period of time, it has turned out to be that it is normally a sister and brother centric practice. Okay, over a period of time, definitely the rituals or they may dynamically they will change. But knowing the actual significance or the origin of that particular practice, you get a lot of atma bala in saying that this is why I am doing this, and it is not dogmatic. So it's not dogmatic because you do have a concept behind any practice that you do, and when you know that this is from a Purana, that itself is a pramana for us. For us in our Sanatana culture, what are the pramana? Based on which pramana do we actually perform anything? Is mainly Shruti, that is the Vedas, or Smriti, that is the Dharma Shastra Granthas, Itihasas and Puranas. So Itihasa, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata, and Puranas, the Ashtadasha Puranas, the 18 Puranas. So these are our, for whatever we want to, we want to know, if we want to know the origins of whatever practices and whatever values that we inherit. So these are the places that we have to go and search, so that we'll get to know why we are doing, whatever we are doing. And other cultural practices such as Raksha Bandhan is there. We do have something called as Kojagari Purnima in very much popular in Maharashtra and parts of central India. So that is again the word comes from the Sanskrit word ko jagarti. So ko jagrati, who is awakened, who is not sleeping. So the word itself means who is not sleeping. So Kojagari Purnima is around the concept of Jagaranam on particular tithi. Why? Because it is said that Sri Mahalakshmi comes and visits people, sees whether they are awakened or not in that particular on that particular tithi, and says that whoever is not sleeping, I will reside in their houses. So this is a practice. So so there is so coming to what we do give value for is because it is not that, again, here also there is no need to actually go and seek for a scientific validation. Why should we do? We should do because there is a concept behind it. It is not essential that everything needs to be validated by another source. They may have at times, like normally we do have this practice of not eating while there is any eclipse, solar or lunar eclipse. Why? Because it is said so in the Dharma Shastras. So our lives and the other fundamental understanding from the Puranas or the Shruti or the Vedic wisdom, what is the most unique aspect of Bharat is there are certain elements which are not being understood or not being they're not able to understand why we actually are unique, even though being the one of the oldest civilizations and the living civilizations. What are the unique foundations that actually define who we are? So the unique foundations can be mapped into 4 Purusharthas, that is Dharmartha, Kama, Mokshas, and the concept of Punarjanma. So we, whatever our value system, whatever the kind of practices that we actually are having, they're not based on one life understanding. So according to us, we do have something called as a concept called Punarjanma. So based on this concept, many of our understandings or our foundational viewpoint or our worldview itself is totally different. We do not get depressed so much if we are not able to actually be successful in our materialistic life, because this is not the only life that we are actually having. We do have many prior to this life, we have many lives, and afterwards also we will have. So we do have something called as a karma siddhanta, which is based on the concepts of punarjanma and papa punya. So this is very much unique and very much, actually, we do find that is why people who are happy, who are feeling contented despite not having much materialistic wealth. We do find many people in the villages, the older people who do not have any grudges in their life, or who do not have depression, who do not actually have experienced or even don't know what depression is, because they belong to the tradition and they have accepted the cultural values that are inherited by them, even though they may not have the scriptural knowledge of saying this is punarjanma, this is papa, and this is punya, but the essence of these concepts are so much embedded in our day-to-day lives that without knowingly or unknowingly, we do express in different kinds of idioms. In Telugu we say idu na karmara. So we say that this is my karma. What is karma? Actually, the person who is actually using that word may not scripturally know that what is karma, but he understands and he experiences the concept of karma. So where do we find the foundations of these concepts is in the Shruti, Smriti, Purana and Itihasas. And coming to Puranas, it is embedded, or it is expressed in such a way that first you will have a theory, then you will have a story to it, or a legend, we may call it as. And then, so that is why any vrata that you do, it has something at the end called vrata katha. In that vrata katha, you find why should we do. For suppose if we take the Vinayaka Chaturthi itself, it has some katha stating that Narada or some rishi will ask someone, whether it is at times it could be Vishnumurti, it could be Shiva, it could be Brahmadeva. Someone will say that I'm having these problems, what should I do? Do this vrata, and this is how you have to do a vrata. Who have done this vrata? previously such and person has done this vrata, so they have come out of their problems, so hence you have to also do this vrata. So this is the common template that you find across the vrata kathas. So and if you ask the historians, they will ask, if you go to the historians, they will ask, what is the historical evidence that you are having for this vrata katha? Do you find any, what is, if you say Vidarbha Desha in the katha, what is Vidarbha Desha? Is it in the Vidarbha region of now in Maharashtra? Do we found any, if we excavate somewhere, do we find any, pots or something, broken pots or something? Unless I find what you call a materialistic evidence, I cannot say this happened. This can be just a, fabricated this thing. So, but the essential part that we have to understand is what is the actual value that they wanted to impart to us through that katha. So, what happens periodically while who is Ganesha? And if you go to the Vedanta perspective, each and every devata is nothing but the same reflection of the Parabrahman. But we do have many devatas. Why? Because based on our gunas, that we have sattva, rajas, tamo gunas, and each and every one will have one guna predominant, and the other guna to be subservient to the main guna. So based on our gunas, different devatas are in different belong to different gunas. So based on your compatibility, you choose one Ishta Devata, or you choose, or you are chosen by one Kula Devata, and then you practice their upasana, which will actually lead to the Parabrahma Tattva. So, and these rituals are very much important in aligning our mind and body. So normally, and our indriyas. So mind, body is external body. Indriyas are subtle level, they're the subtler, forces that actually impact us. And the main catalyst would be the mind. So what these rituals do is they actually give a samskara to our mind. So so if you're doing your Nityanusthana, you are awakened at the time of, that as you have to do your Nityanusthana at the sun rising and at the sunset, at the time of sunset. What happens is you schedule your day in such a way that you keep your a time, at least a 15 to 20 minutes for your Nityanusthana in the morning and in the evening. So this will actually align your mind. So what are you actually doing in the Nityanusthana is you are actually having this is just a process of inward journey. So this may not actually be very much evident in the starting stages, but if you practice in such a way that your body itself will have your circadian rhythm will be set in such a way that without even knowing or without even having a reminder, you know that it is time for a Nityanusthana. So your circadian cycle is such, it is maintained in such a way that whatever problems you may have, whatever frustrations you may have, while the Sandhya or the Sandhya Samaya comes, you are awakened saying that I have to do my Nityanusthana. If you give importance to that Nityanusthana, what happens is you are actually cutting your relation with the negativities of whatever happened before the Sandhya Kala, and you are doing a small practice of inverse journey, and again you are refreshing yourself and doing the other work, whatever you're doing. So this will help you actually maintain your mental wellness. So if I have to speak it in scientific terminology, I have to maybe use all this. But if I actually give value to the Nityanusthana itself culturally, whatever effect it will have on me is secondary to me and not the primary thing to me. In whatever ways it may happen, it will definitely what you call it will give me value to my life. So what happens if your practices are based on the cultural values set by the Puranas is your lifestyle will be so simple. It will be disciplined. So you see whenever what are all the festivals coming. So you plan your year in such a way that you are not actually hindering any of your celebrations of your festivals, knowing why should you do each and every festival, doing it with knowledge. So we need to even develop this tendency of giving value to things which may not be measured in the terms of monetary. There need not be any monetary benefit for practicing certain rituals, but that will give you immense joy, immense satisfaction So which cannot be measured in monetary terms. Definitely, we do need a monetary, backing for our, day-to-day life to, function. But that doesn't, our life should not evolve around only that element of monetary benefit. Monetary benefit should be our secondary, or it should be the fuel for our life, but not the actual, driving force of our life. So you take any festival, every festival has its origins in the Dharma Shastras, and Dharma Shastras quote Puranas. So in such a way, Puranas definitely play a very crucial role in our cultural, practices and cultural values. And coming to ethical values, so if you see, according to Puranas, again in Bhavishya Purana, we do find interestingly in one of the Madhyama Parva, a whole section is allotted or is dealt regarding certain environmental practices. We find it very fascinating to find environmental practices explained in Puranas. So there are certain elements where we do say, how do actually we should do a Bilva Vriksha Pratishtha. So Bilva tree. So it's not just digging up a hole and putting it and covering it with mud and pouring water. So if you actually go through the ritual, it is like you are personifying Bilva Vriksha to be Lord Shiva himself. So we actually extend sacrality to each and every element in the nature. So that is why if you have to even pluck, if you know the Dharma Shastras and the Puranas, even to pluck a leaf from the tree, you need to see whether the time is right or not. If it is sunset, it is normally said by our elders that don't touch a tree because it is sleeping. To kid, you say like that. But if you again go through this, the modern aspect, they say, what is this? But if you see from the Puranic lens, it would be that you are also treating a tree to be very sacred. You don't want to disturb its cycle. You don't want to unnecessarily disturb its cycle. So, and each and everything, even if you have to cut a branch of the tree, there is a shloka that you have to recite and asking the permission, and even saying that you should be grateful for whatever contribution that particular tree is giving to the environment that you are actually there in. So there is a lot of sacredness towards nature. So this is an ethical principle, and the evidence of that lost sacredness towards nature is actually an example of our cities. Whenever there is a very cloudburst or a very big rain, why do our cities are submerging in water? Is because we are we are actually building very big buildings on the ponds. So we are covering the ponds and building. So that is the whole. So we are not at all interested or not at all giving value. Even if you see from the town planning perspective, it is very unscientific to do so. But still, thinking, we people who think that everything should be scientifically validated, people who actually question the scientific, validation of certain practices, they actually purchase a house on a land which happens to be a pond, and actually even accuse the government when it is submerged in water, saying that this is very much a wrong decision from the governance point of view. But if you come to see, if we actually would have dealt this governance issue from the Puranic lens, according to the Puranas, the rivers or whatever the water bodies, they're all sacred. Why? If you go and see in the same Bhavishya Purana, if you have to actually construct a pond, there is a long process to it. There is a long ritual to it, 2 to 3 days. And you do the avahan of many deities before actually constructing a pond. And then you do Varuna Deva avahana and etc. And then the pond becomes a sacred site to you. And it to even maintain the ecosystem in the pond, you release crocodiles, you release tortoises, you release fish. So this is all part of a ritual said in the Puranas. And you even establish a mark of saying it to be sorry, saying it to be sacred, which we call it as Upastambha. Upastambha is normally used in the yajnas also, in the Shrauta yajnas. And very interestingly, we do find this installation of Upastambhas after consecrating a pond. Even there, we call it as consecration of a pond. It's not just building a pond. So you are actually making the pond itself to be sacred, a place of devatas. So you unnecessarily, you do not touch it. And you create an ecosystem which is sustainable. So the tortoise, the crocodile, the fishes, everything, they maintain the the water, whatever pH levels or whatever it is. So they have an ecosystem itself to it. And there are certain rules according to the once a pond is created, even the king doesn't has an authority to actually destruct it. So he needs to take care of it. And there are certain practices such as go prachara bhumi and etc. where after, so go prachara bhumi is essentially a piece of land which is dedicated for grazing of cows, of animals. So you do not actually reap any benefit out of that grazing land. Once you dedicate or state it to be a go prachara bhumi, even the king doesn't has an authority to actually redo that. He cannot touch that bhumi and say that no, this is not him. So this is the whole thing behind the story of the movie Kantara. So in Kantara also, you find that the king wants peace and he actually asks the deity, I want peace. And the deity says that if you want peace, from this point to the point wherein the Gulu Devata actually shouts, until the point the sound actually travels, dedicated to the people who are there in that particular land, and it is no more yours. And he agrees to it. And the whole story starts when the descendants of that particular king asks that I want back my land. So the whole concept of this movie has very much its root in the Puranas, similar to the Go Prachara Bhumi. So even the king and his descendants cannot actually claim their right on that particular piece of land. Even though, even in the epigraphical history, evidence also shows that such lands, or which we call it as Deva Bhumis, or lands given to temples, may the dynasties different. I mean, there could be a dynasty after 100 or 50, 500 years, the dynasty may change. Another new dynasty may come. Never did these dynasties say that the land which is dedicated or given to the temple is reclaimed by the kings. It has only been done after independence. And even there also, they tend to even now grab land. The governments try to grab temple lands. But if you see the significance, you see, this is not the reclamation of temple land hasn't happened for thousands of years, but it is happening now because we lost the worldview of our dharma, that is our Vedic worldview. We lost that worldview, and hence we do not give value to that particular concept. And ethically, if you see, all these practices, that is making, and that is why rivers cannot be drainages. Rivers weren't polluted until the Muslims came, because for us rivers were sacred. They were devatas. So you cannot pollute a river. Even in Puranas and in Dharma Shastra, it goes to certain detail that it says that you cannot urinate, you cannot defecate in a nadi, in a river. So whole defecation process is dealt differently. It is dealt in a very detailed manner in the Dharma Shastras. So where you find to be very much ethical, very much sustainable, So now we are unfortunately polluting our own water bodies. This is happening only from past maybe 1000 years, 500 years, or maybe even less, 150 years, 150 years. So, and we have polluted in such a way that we are finding it very hard to actually clean them. The whole the Mission Ganga, Har Har Gange project is whole of purifying Ganga. Unfortunately, we don't actually have that kind of a practice uh, until very much recent. Why? Because our ethical view, ethical values are very much rooted in the Puranas and in the Shastras. So in such way, if you see all these things, so once you have sacralized or said that this is form of a deity, a water body is form of a deity, you don't try to unnecessarily disturb it, because you see it as a living deity. So for us, deities are not only in the idols itself. So any form of upasana is a way to actually relate to the higher uh, concept of the divine. So that is why we have different kinds of upasanas and different kinds of ethical values, different kinds of cultural practices. Even though the main truth, the eternal truth is the same, that you are serving, you're actually, the journey is towards inwards. Whatever you are doing outwards is actually aimed at realizing your true nature, which is inwards. So where do all these rituals, all these practices lead you is to a point wherein you can actually introspect why you are here, what is your role to play in your personal journey and as a person, as an element in this society. So all these things are very much inwards. If we actually see the problems and solutions, they reside in ourself itself. So problems are not materialistic. Problems are mind. They're in our mind. If we think it is a problem, it is a problem. If we think it is a solution, it's a solution. So this is how do actually we then have a samskara to our mind. Is we started with stories and tales. They're ethical, whatever stories we have. So they are all embedded in the Puranas. So what is Ramayana all about? It is about how to lead a life which is focused, which is based on the foundations of dharma. So Sri Ramachandra himself, he is the personification of dharma. So you take him as an idol and try to actually practice some of the values that he has actually shown by practicing those values in Ramayana, and try to get inspired and try to apply it in your life and try to experience the outcomes of those practices. And then this is the way that we actually refine our mind. So this samskara, this happens through various means. Some people may have it through the Shastra Adhyayana. Not many can have Shastra Adhyayana, as it could be rigorous, very tedious. So we do have very beautiful stories in Puranas and Itihasas. So where if the listener is a child, he will, in the first step, he will understand the story. He will remember the story, and after growing a bit older, and once he starts maturing in the in the mental level, then he may actually see different layer to the same story. If he is introduced into some part of Shastra or some concepts from the Shastras, he deciphers the story in totally in a different way. So the same story can have 10 different inner, deeper layers to it. So all these stories will help us to actually refine our understanding, help build a better worldview. So which is what actually people find it fascinating after visiting India. So even people like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, they say their thought process has changed after visiting India, though it is limited because they do not have the bhagya of having birth in Bharat. but their thought process has changed. So what is that unique element that is there in Bharat that has phenomenally changed their worldview? Is this, that we inherit such a knowledge system, knowledge, resource, treasure, that we have many things embedded in our Puranas and Itihasas, which have a multi-layered teachings to them, which we uncover in a very long journey of our life in a very deeper manner. They have a lot of impact on our thought process. So normally nowadays, whatever we call it as leadership programs or personality development programs, we can actually relate to them many concepts from, it could be Mahabharata, it could be Bhagavad Gita, it could be Puranas, it could be any story. We can definitely relate them to us based on these stories, but we do not realize that these are they are not branded as personality development programs or leadership programs, but they are embedded into our life. There is no need to actually tell the elder of any family to take up or take the responsibility of leading the family when it is in a very bad position. He comes up very naturally. Why does he comes up? Where does he actually get that courage to come up, saying that no, I will take the responsibility? Is because he inherits. This is the experiential knowledge that we actually inherit from our ancestors, and it is very much now essential for us to rediscover the roots of these values. It is okay to say that, okay, there is no need to tell to me or tell me that I should take care of my children, I should take care of my parents, but it is very much needed to rediscover that where do we actually inherit this kind of value. We inherit these values from our Shastras and from our Puranas, and we do have different Kathas, different stories in the in the Puranas that actually sow the seeds of these values in us and say that we at least give the credit to that particular source, know it in detail. There could be certain details which we may not have known, know them, try to practice them. And because even life is all about giving value to certain things. If you give value to food or money, then you find value in money. If you give value in relationships, you find value in it. So life is all about about evolving our day-to-day activities around things in which you give value. Actually, we are giving value to job because our whole system has been trained in such a way that we started giving value to job. We are giving value to the personal life, professional life over personal life. If you give value to your personal life and personal relationships and secondary value to your professional life, you do find such a people. And how could people like Sridhar Vembu, who has established a whole MNC, that is Zoho, in a very small town, a small village, based on a village, because he gave value in staying in a village and actually running a big MNC. He gave value to people who are grounded in, who are staying in villages, and built a whole factory out of in a small village and showed that this is possible. It is not essential that MNCs have to be based only in metro cities like Bangalore and Chennai or Hyderabad. So he has proved that. How could he prove? He proved only that because he gave value to life in village, so that he could change the whole narration. So that could be an example for us to actually rethink, saying that what are those elements that I will give value, and design our life around those valuable things. If you give value to stay back, like Anirudh stayed back in his his village, so he is able to work because he gave value to staying in his village and doing something for his village. If he doesn't give that value, even though my brother and myself may say many things, saying, to him, to advise him that you have to stay, but he may not stay. But his peers are not doing the same thing as he is doing. because they give value to something else. So he gave value to something else. So maybe rediscovering, redefining our value system based on the teachings of Puranas and Itihasas, and actually trying it out. And yes, yet there may be some practical issues. So it is not easy for everyone to actually find a livelihood based on those elements which you give value. But we may start our journey, discover more deeper elements, and try to redesign our journey towards, and more find it more fulfilling. So actually there are only two things that our life evolves around. One is sukha and the other one is dukkha. Whatever you say every day, whatever activity that you do, they evolve around these two things only. So what will give you sukha? The practice or any activity that you give in value will give you sukha. If you think this is worthwhile doing, and if you perform that particular activity, that will give you sukha. And what will give you dukkha is the contradiction. You are finding value in something else and you are doing something, and if you do that, you find dukkha. And that is why we find many people working in MNCs personally are not fulfilled. They don't have this what you call the luxury of being happy with whatever they are doing. So they say, I'm doing this particular job, but I'm not happy doing that. I'm doing it only for money, but I'm unhappy as I'm not able to pursue something which is personal to me. So the life evolves around only these two emotions. So whatever you give value, it will give you happiness. So finding what is right, what is something that which we have to give value. The guidance come from these Puranas and Itihasas, and it is never late for us to actually start our journey, redefining our value system from the Puranas. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad gurorev me nahi, yadatra saushthavam kinchit tan mamaiva name guru. Whatever I've said, if there is any virtue, that belongs to my guru, and if there are any shortcomings, they belong to me and not to my guru. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Acharya, for the insightful session. And please keep guiding us in the future. And all this was possible with the anugraha of our Bhagavati and our Gurus. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And tomorrow we'll be meeting again. Yes.
Thank you, Acharya. We have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So if anyone have questions they want to ask, please be free. You can unmute and you can ask. I think everyone is very happy and they have found all their answers to all their questions today. So it's a very successful session. Dhanyawad, Acharya.
If anyone gets any question after this session, you can share us in our WhatsApp group. We'll be sharing it with our Acharya, and we'll try to answer it in the coming sessions. Acharya, there is one question: how the journey, how to and where to start the journey for Puranas from Shruti ji?
You can start taking any Purana, whether it could be Bhagavata, and fortunately we do have many authentic translations, maybe from Gita Press. If you belong to the Hindi mother tongue, there is Gita Press available. Start with something that you can actually which is easy for you. At least try to start with Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, whatever possible ways. Take something and better do a recitation of the primary text, that is the Purana itself, and try to go through the meaning that is given below the below the shlokas, and you can start like that. And we are doing creating content to actually we are doing some Utsava series, so that is only oriented towards rediscovering our origin and significance of festivals. And there are many places such as Indica Today and other portals where you do find some good content based on Puranas.
Thank you, Acharya. Sheetal ji have one question,
Thank
please.
you, Ji.
Yeah.
Yeah, Namaskar, Acharya ji.
Yes.
Acharya ji, I have a question regarding sadhana. For example, we do a different type of sadhana, like some people do yoga sadhana and some bhakti sadhana. So I have a question, since this has been passed on from generation after generation, and there is, we see nowadays there is so much of adulteration that, in the information that comes. So, can you guide us how exactly is sadhana supposed to do to be done, and is there a specific muhuratam during which time of the day we are supposed to perform the sadhana? Whether it is a bhakti sadhana or any type of sadhana, is there any particular time period during which we should not be performing any such spiritual activities or
Okay.
something like that?
Yeah. So there are certain fundamentals that we may have to understand. So I would recommend maybe going through some of the, at least knowing what are the fundamentals. So there are works such as Samanya Dharma. So there is a book called Samanya Dharma written by a person called Nitin Sridhar. So you can start actually understanding what are the fundamentals of our way of life. And we do have works like Nirnaya Sindhu, which have Hindi translation also. At least you can go through them and try to understand how actually our day-to-day life. And even if you can go through a work called, in Ayurveda, there is called a work called Ashtanga Hridayam, where in one section where you have which is called as where you have a section which deals with how you should actually function your day-to-day timetable after waking up, how to do what are all the things that you have to do prior to doing snanam, and what are all the things that you have to do after doing snanam, and all these stuff. And in the similar way, so these are all very foundational level. So, but definitely, as you said, there will be many versions to it and many adulterations, as you pointed out, there will be. So it is only our nature, or we should actually invoke the curiosity in us and try to validate each and everything. Not take it at the face value. So whenever someone says something, you have to see whether he's quoting some Shastra or some Shastric verse or some Puranic verse to it, and actually giving us some manual, or is he stating whatever comes to his mind, and or is he not stating anything? If he is stating something, better search it, find the right source. If you find the source, then you can be assured that okay, this has some base to it, proof. So this is how we even actually validate even in the Shastras. Unless some proof is given from the Vedic wisdom, that is the Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Itihasa, we cannot take anything and everything that comes at face value. So we need to also be vigilant about whatever, and in the name of practices, many dogmatic practices are also being prescribed, saying that if it is Shanivar, okay, if it is Saturday, do this, wear this black, do this, do that, and all these things, they come up from from nowhere. So we need to actually be vigilant. Do not take anything at their face value as it is said to be a cultural practice. Rather, try to find out. Even we also should have the the onus is also upon us, that if we are curious enough, we should find time and energies to actually answer our curiosity. So we need, if you start your journey, the Paramatma himself will show you the path. Until you start your journey of validation of or your curiosity, you don't find any path. But if you start, definitely, as I said, you can start with Samanya Dharma, of knowing the foundations of Dharma Shastras by Nirnaya Sindhu, or any Purana that you take. Even take Ramayana. It has beautiful translations in many languages. See to it that whether it is having the original Valmiki Ramayana and giving some translation to it. Start your journey there. Definitely the Ishvara will take you to the through the right path.